Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, and I'm your host, the Game Master. Today, we're going to be talking about the X-Men, Magneto, the Hellfire Club, and the Cuban Missile Crisis. But before we get into all that, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell, and as always, leave a comment because that really helps us out on our end with the YouTube algorithm. We've got a great community here, and it is all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. All that said, let's dive in. Prologue to this one takes place in 1962. Magneto is tracking the Hellfire Club's Black King, aka Sebastian Shaw, who is the leader of the Hellfire Club's inner circle, but more importantly, he is the guy who killed Magneto's mother during World War II. Magneto travels to South America where he encounters the boys from Brazil, clones of the most notorious German dictator of all time. One by one, Magneto takes out Germans left and right, starting with the scientists. But eventually, he even takes out the clones, partially because to him, despite their age, they represent what destroyed his family, but also partially because he believes the ends justifies the means and he doesn't want any of them to grow up and be a problem. Then we get into the main plot of this one, which takes place in 1962 in Las Vegas, where Moira McTaggart follows U.S. Army Colonel Hendry into the Hellfire Club. Gathered in the Las Vegas branch of the club are the following villains: Black Bishop, aka Harry Leland; Black King, aka Sebastian Shaw; Black Knight, aka Nathan Garrett; Black Rook, aka Frederick von Rome; White Bishop, aka Donald Pierce; White King, aka Ned Buckman; White Knight, aka Jason Wingard; and White Rook, aka Emmanuel da Costa. Also here are some of their pawns, namely Azazel, a demonic-looking mutant with teleportation powers; the Grey Gargoyle, aka Paul Pierre Duval; Water Witch; and Whirlwind, aka David Cannon. At any rate, so Sebastian Shaw threatens Colonel Hendry, then orders Azazel to teleport him to the joint war room where Hendry advocates deploying nuclear missiles in Turkey. Meanwhile, Charles Xavier earns his doctorate from the University of Oxford. So Moira goes to Xavier, since he's the world's leading authority on mutation, and asks his advice, then takes him and a mutant named Mystique, aka Raven Darkholm, to the CIA, where they convince Director McCone that mutants exist and that Sebastian Shaw is a threat. The CIA sponsors the mutants and invites them to a secret Division X facility. Moira and Professor Xavier find Sebastian Shaw as Magneto is attacking him, and Xavier rescues Magneto from drowning before Shaw manages to escape. Xavier brings Magneto to Division X, where they meet Hank McCoy, a young mutant scientist with prehensile feet. Xavier uses McCoy's mutant locating device called Cerebro to seek and recruit other mutants. Xavier and Magneto recruit Angel, aka Warren Worthington III, Cyclops, aka Scott Summers, Iceman, aka Bobby Drake, and Marvel Girl, aka Jean Grey. Each of them, by the way, is a teenager at this point in our timeline. Xavier and Magneto also find Wolverine and try to recruit him, but he tells them to go F themselves. Xavier, Magneto, and Moira lead a CIA mission to the Soviet Union to capture Mastermind, and while there, they discover that Shaw intends to start World War III and hopes that all the radiation will cause people everywhere to mutate. The aforementioned pawns of the Hellfire Club then attack Division X, killing everyone but the mutants, whom Shaw invites to join him. Angel, Beast, Cyclops, Iceman, and Jean Grey fight back, and Shaw thinks they are misguided children. So even though he wins the fight, he uses knockout damage only. Later in Moscow, Shaw compels a Russian general to have the USSR install missiles in Cuba. Wearing a helmet that blocks telepathy, Shaw follows the Soviet fleet in a submarine to ensure the missiles break a US blockade. In the meantime, Xavier takes the recruits back to his mansion where they focus on harnessing their abilities. McCoy believes Raven's DNA may provide a cure for their appearance. He manages to get a cure ready, but Raven, after being persuaded by Magneto, decides she does not want to hide her identity and she refuses to take the cure. McCoy uses the cure on himself, but it backfires, giving him blue fur and animalistic features. With McCoy piloting, the mutants and Moira take a prototype version of the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird to the blockade line, where Xavier uses his telepathy to influence a Soviet sailor to destroy the ship carrying the missiles, and Magneto uses his powers to lift Shaw's submarine from the water, depositing it on land. During the ensuing battle, Magneto seizes Shaw's helmet, allowing Xavier to immobilize Shaw. While Shaw is helpless, Magneto desires to avenge his mother and pushes the German coin he's been carrying since childhood through Shaw's brain, killing him. The other members of the Hellfire Club who are here are also killed, namely Donald Pierce, Emmanuel DaCosta, Frederick von Rohem, Harry Leland, Nathan Garrett, and Ned Buckman. Fearful of the mutants, both fleets fire at them, so Magneto uses his magnetic control to stop the missiles in midair. As Magneto turns the arsenal back towards the fleet, Moira tries to stop Magneto by shooting him, but he deflects the bullets, one of which hits Xavier in the spine when he intervenes between the two. Magneto rushes to help Xavier and, distracted, allows the weaponry to fall harmlessly into the ocean. Parting with Xavier over differing views on the relationship between mutants and humans, Magneto leaves with Azazel, Grey Gargoyle, Jason Wyngarde, Mystique, Water Witch, and Whirlwind. Later, a wheelchair-using Xavier and his mutants return to the mansion where Xavier opens his school for gifted youngsters. Then we get into the epilogue. White Knight, aka Jason Wyngarde, leads Azazel, Grey Gargoyle, Magneto, Mystique, Water Witch, and Whirlwind to 840 Fifth Avenue between 66th and 67th Street on Manhattan's Upper East Side in the Lenox Hill neighborhood of New York City. Here, they find the Hellfire Club building and come face to face with the Black Queen, aka Selene, the Red King, aka John Redbridge, and White Queen, aka Emma Frost. Magneto informs them that the other members of the Hellfire Club are dead. Selene says if they're looking for bereavement, they've come to the wrong place. Wyngarde explains that Black Queen, Red King, and White Queen never did get along with the others. Magneto says he didn't come for that. He came here because the Hellfire Club has some job openings now, and he would like to be the Gray King. which seems like a pretty good place to stop. By the way, Magneto becoming the Gray King was in the comics in New Mutants issue number 75, so that wasn't something we made up. Also, perhaps more obviously, is that quite a bit of this adventure was taken from the film X-Men First Class, which I personally enjoyed overall, partially because I love movies that are set in the past. And I wish more movies were set in the decade when the characters were created. Oftentimes, what was going on in that decade is baked into the character's DNA, like the X-Men and all the race relation stuff of the 1960s, or the Fantastic Four and the space race. In my humble opinion, when you take a character out of that decade, the character starts to not work as well. I'll cite Clark Kent's disguise as an example, right? It's one thing when every guy on practically every street corner in 1938 has short black hair, glasses, a suit, and a fedora, right? But in 2024, I suspect that Clark Kent is probably going to be the only guy dressed like that. At least where I live, nobody seems to wear suits anymore. If you walk into most businesses, what I see more often than not are guys wearing like a polo shirt and khaki slacks, which ruins the idea that Superman's costume could be worn under that, right? And without a button down shirt, you can't rip the shirt open, revealing the suit underneath. You could take the shirt off, of course, but I always thought part of Superman's deal was it seemed like I feel like a lot of people feel like there's more to them than what people see. Like you're being judged kind of for the surface level stuff, right? And most people are deeper than that, right? So I always thought that's kind of what Superman represented, was this all the amazing stuff within him that people overlook, you know. At any rate, I'm getting off topic. So getting back on track, I did enjoy X-Men First Class, and we played a version of this game immediately after we saw the movie all the way back in 2011. Um, and then we played it again this year, making some small changes here and there to reflect recent alterations that have been made in our game's timeline by characters using the time travel power. So, like for instance, this time around, Emma Frost um, was not in it as much. The first time we played it, she was. Um, but our assumption was that the Red King had slowly helped Emma become a better person, right? And while admittedly, White Queen and Black Queen were simultaneously making him kind of a worse person. But so we assumed Emma probably wouldn't want to help, right? So we used Mastermind in her stead. We also replaced the heroes from the movie with characters like Angel, Cyclops, Iceman, and Jean Grey. And so that was us trying to get things to line up a little better with the first appearance of the X-Men in the comics. At any rate, so we enjoyed this one. We liked it well enough we played it more than once. So hopefully you liked what you heard too. If so, as always, smash the like button, check to see if you're still subscribed, ring the bell for notifications, and leave us a comment because that really helps us out on our end. From all of us here at the longest running superhero RPG on Earth, we hope you guys have a good one, and we will see you in the next adventure. Bye.